Welcome to BP, the Bible Perspective. A new report came out today, or actually yesterday, broke yesterday, that a juror in the grand jury case, Breonna Taylor, is actually petitioning courts that the transcripts of what they were presented to the public, they're citing that the Attorney General did the truth. So when they ruled or voted for a not to indict, there's some things to understand about what they were presented and what was not. We are past, or I should say, we are certainly now living in a time where no longer no longer can we just assume that police officers, attorney generals are telling the truth. I think we're past that now. We know police lie. And thank God for cell phones now, the cell cameras that now are able to uncover the truth. And because before they were given the benefit of the doubt. If you didn't have cell cameras, a lot more of these cases would go unsolved, see. And now what we have, even with the Attorney General, when I watched the case, I remember it was like watching the same Attorney General doing the Michael Brown case and doing St. Louis. He just did some really, to me, stuff that just shouldn't have been done. And so now this news broke that, hey, wait a minute, what he said in the public, he said, this jury is indicating we didn't hear that. And what's amazing, because now since then you have all of this information to slur, to slander Breonna Taylor, to paint her as the not victim, but as a criminal who deserved to be shot full of holes by a incompetent police force who did not execute a warrant properly. In other words, the police, they're not wrong. So the point is that you have to understand, how do juries go, right? How do these things happen? I remember sitting on the jury once, and I know one of the most frustrating things, and I thought it was great. I recommend that everybody sits on the jury because it is your civic duty. But the frustrating thing was, there's pros and cons, by the way, let me just say that. The frustrating thing is, if you have an incompetent lawyer, okay, your case can go badly for you. And in this case, with the grand jury, how you corral thoughts, what evidence you present and don't present, that becomes the issue. I don't fault the grand jury for not indicting police officers, because as we are now seeing, and this is one of the first times I think it's sort of unprecedented, because this jury is coming forward. They can't talk about the case, but they can say, you know what, release the transcript. This is something that is, I think, wonderful, because, yeah, now we get to see what facts were presented, what facts were left out. See, in a jury trial, in a case, one of the things about it, a jury will be instructed. They will sit in a court case. They will hear the case. The judge will tell them before they retire to deliberate what they can and cannot consider as evidence. And oftentimes they may or may not be exposed to news coverage, so they don't see what the public. They can only see what is set before them. And the judge would say, okay, that's why sometimes if you hear some lawyer blurt something out, and then the other lawyer will object, and the judge will say, you can't strike that from the record. It means you can't consider that. Like I say, sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. And it all comes down by law to what was presented. In other words, what can they take into the jury room and consider? And that's it. If they have a good lawyer, that's great. If they have a bad lawyer, guess what? That's not, it's not good. And in this case, the AG, in my opinion, seemed to wanted the outcome that he got. No serious indictments. And the way you do that is by you present certain facts and you leave out others. Now, I remember looking at certain Facebook posts and I see people saying that, well, she was a drug dealer, she was that, and she was, and they were following her. See, this is all media information. When I ask people, where do you get your information from? Tell me where you get your information from. If you're telling me all of this stuff, where are you getting it from? Okay? And of course, it depends on the kind of news source. But the actual facts of the matter, see, the problem is that when you still wade through all of what's going on, how can the police explain? How can the police explain the way they executed that warrant? And by the way, remember, no drugs were found. That is the purpose of a warrant. I mean, there are a lot of things, of course, and I admit that I can be an armchair quarterback. And by no means am I a expert, legal expert, that is. But I know enough to say, okay, what facts are given and what facts are not. See, when I approach it, I don't have an agenda. I don't have a political or a cultural agenda. Give me the facts. And despite opinions, when you look at the Breonna case, you look at how did they get so much wrong that ended in death. Now, after the fact, people are saying, well, it's the boyfriend's fault because he shot at the police. Really? Why did they have the right information in the first place? Why didn't they sit on the apartment and observe and verify that who they were going after was there? And if they just went in blindly, in other words, you went downtown, got the warrant and came back and said, well, let's go in. See, there's something wrong with that. And of course, an innocent life was snuffed out. It will be interesting to see, and I do hope that the grand jury proceedings will be made public. So we can see, the public can see just what went on. You can see what they were having to deal with. In fact, every trial should be like that. And I told you, I sat on a jury trial where I didn't like it only because the lawyers that the defendant had was just a piss poor lawyer. And he was convicted based upon, again, what was put on the table. And that's frustrating. Our law system in and of itself is not the problem, it's people, humans. And this is, I think, what we're going to see here, where you have an AG that was playing around with lies. Now, by the way, let me just say, and if I'm, the system in this case, the family walked away with $12 million, but that cannot replace the life that was taken in the person of Breonna Taylor. So in other words, I don't want a multi-million-dollar settlement when it comes to my family. And for that reason, police shouldn't get it wrong. and they should be held accountable when they are. And this AG seemed to play loose and fancy free with that. That's my perspective, guys. And as always, don't forget to like and share this video, and please subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome. Till next time, I'll see you then.